welcome to Daddy Life London. Today I'm going to talk about meeting the birth parents. So meeting the birth parents is something that's usually encouraged these days if you can do that usually before your placement happens. When you go through training and you're in stage 2 and you're talking about meeting the birth parents, it's probably next to going to panel one of the most nerve-wracking things to think about, get your head around, try and understand why it's important, because what other situation in the world would ever contrive you to be into such an awkward place. It's only adoption that really kind of does that. Meeting birth parents is assessed really well by social workers. They won't put you in that position if they don't feel that the risk is good enough, if that makes sense. So if they feel there's going to be violence or it's going to be uncomfortable or uncomfortable it will be, but unpleasant, they won't do it because it's not going to be a good experience for you or the birth parents. And I think what you have to remember is meeting the birth parents is as much about you as it is about them meeting you. So it provides you with a great source of first-hand knowledge to talk to your child or children about in the future. So hopefully they can describe to you their experiences growing up, what they do, why they are where they are, what their thoughts are about the adoption, if they've got any hopes or dreams for their children in the future, what's their favourite music, favourite movies, what do they like to do. And that can really help you in the future be able to perhaps talk to your child about what they were like, really talk about the reasons and the fact that you were able to have an adult, mature conversation with the birth parents around why they've been removed and placed into their new forever home with you. I think your ability to do that and say it's not just because you read it on a piece of paper or because a social worker told you is really, really powerful. I certainly know that when we were asked to meet our little one's birth parents, obviously that kind of feeling of dread entered the centre of my stomach, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And we did it about a week before our child moved in. And what actually happened was the night before we were at the foster carers because we were doing transition and they showed us a picture. My one recommendation to you is if you can help it, don't look at pictures of the birth parents before you go, because your brain just starts going crazy about what it's going to be like and what they're going to do, and you have a preconception based on what they look like. And I certainly had nightmares the night before, I'm not going to lie. And I remember, for me, I always thought the first panel was the worst kind of level of angst I'd ever had as part of the process, but this was worse than the first panel for being approved as adopters. But I trust our social worker, our child social worker, so I got that it was going to be safe and hopefully respectful. Luckily for us, our child's birth parents, they're not violent, they're not drug addicts or alcoholics that could have any tendencies to react in the situation. They had other issues, but those other issues enabled them to be able to come in and have a conversation. And I think the thing to remember is they're often probably as nervous or more nervous than you are. And for them, depending on their situation, it's also about closure for them. They're meeting the people that are going to look after their children, and whatever we think about why they've been removed, generally these parents want to keep their children and they love their children in the way that they know how, and therefore it's important for them to understand who you are and feel like they've had a level of input and insight into their child's future. For us, we had the second added complexity of being a gay couple, and that's always been something we're nervous about, how the birth parents are going to feel. Luckily for us, actually, they were very cool about it. They actually really supported our child being placed with us as an open, diverse family that can teach them it's okay to be what you want to be. It was a big issue for them growing up, and they therefore, ironically, were really pleased that they knew that they were going to go into an environment where they're with open-minded people that can help teach them about equality and, you know, open fairness, etc., which was really good. And the meeting itself, I have to say, although it was clearly awkward, it's never not going to be, it's really good. You know, we didn't talk loads, we were very careful. You know, you kind of get privatised, they'll give you some anonymity, first names only, sometimes they'll change those depending on how common they are. And it's mainly about them talking, and they did do most of the talking, but we got a lot of information about their childhood, their family, what they like, what they don't like, what they want the child to like, what they would like them to be able to do that they weren't able to do as children, which is really interesting. It's a lot of stuff we didn't really anticipate that we would get out of it, given that we've just read about them kind of more medically and capability wise from their CPA report. So I found it incredibly powerful. I feel much more confident and empowered to have a decent conversation with our child as they get older. And I think, you know, that they got something out of it as well, that they could see hopefully that they were going to a loving home with parents that really wanted so the best for them. The feedback was really good from their social worker, or, you know, our child social worker who they deal with, to say that they felt a lot more comfortable than they thought they would, and they felt really pleased, and that we hopefully treated them with respect as they did with us. You know, I still went for a pint afterwards, don't get me wrong, it's just such an unusual situation to be in, but it's given me a lot of appreciation for what they need, what we need, why the child was taken in the first place. You know, you can read it in a report, but you could kind of see it, that you could validate it for yourself firsthand. You know, and they still ask after the child as part of contact, and at least they've got some sort of vision of what that looks like now. So I think that's just really, really important. So yeah, I would really encourage you to be open-minded about meeting the birth parents, but obviously you need to weigh up the risks with their social worker, and perhaps speak to your social worker if you've got a good relationship with them, because it's got to work. It's got to be a good experience. And by that I mean you've both got to be able to get something out of it positively, even if it's awkward whilst you're in it. Yeah, I know, so that's it really. You know, there's not much more to say. Everyone will be unique, everyone's circumstances will be different. I just think unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, part of adoption means it's very different how the things we have to do with our children. They're not ours, in the sense of we didn't give birth to them, so therefore we have to think about the psychological complexities that come with that, and therefore try and do all the things we can to make it easier for us and our children and their birth parents in the future, so that everybody can move on and hopefully have a fulfilled life, and not feel like things are taboo. I think meeting birth parents and talking about it with your children is a really powerful thing to be able to do. So yeah, so that's a fairly quick one this week. Next week I'm probably going to talk about preparation, and what I mean by preparation is getting your house ready, getting your life ready. It's a question I get asked a lot about. What did you buy? When did you buy it? Did you buy it before you knew about the child? After you knew the child? You know, what are all those things to do? And I think it's a minefield actually, and you don't want to jinx things, and you don't want to be, actually you want to be prepared. So I think that's a really interesting one for the next topic. So yeah, I'll speak to you next week.